A very good morning to my dear students. Hope you all are safe. Dear students, in our last class, we discussed about parts of skeletal system in lesson human body, right? Did you remember that one? What all are the parts, children? Say together. Skull, then backbone, then rib cage, then limbs and girdles. These all are we discussed in our last class, right? Now you just look on this picture. This is our skeletal system, right? If you look closely, entire thing is not a single structure. Well, it is made up of a number of different bones. Why? Main advantage of our body is we are very flexible, right? We are flexible, children. How we can move our bone? Something is there in between the two bones, right? This connection we call joints. What is this connection we call joints? So in this session, I'm going to teach you about different types of joints in our body. We have two types of joints. What are they? Movable and immovable joint. The word itself, movable. It can easily move, right? But what is immovable? It is not flexible. It cannot move. That is immovable joint. It is a place where two bonds that linked together. Okay, two bonds linked together. That we call joint. So joints are two types. What are they? Immovable joint and movable joint. Immovable joint means joints which don't allow any movement. Which don't allow any movement. In our body, which joint that doesn't allow any movement? It is, example we can say, skull. Skull is made up of two types of bones. What are they? Cranial and facial bones. You remember that one? We already learned it. Skull is made up of a cranial and facial bones, is it? And that bonds couldn't move anywhere. It is not a flexible bonds. That's why our brain is protected in skull. Okay. So next joint is movable joint. What is movable joint? The name itself. That is the bonds which are allowing for a flexible movement of a bonds. That is movable joint. We can say many examples. Our shoulder, we can movable, right? And we can rotate. And we can, another example we can say for the movable joint, that is our neck. We can move right like this and left like this, and we cannot move backward. One lock is there, okay? So, but we can move here and here, right? So this also another type of a joint, another type of a movable joint. So more about the movable joint we can discuss now. In case of our neck, as you can see, as you rotate your neck, this is maximum limit, right? Move your neck on this side, maximum limit, okay? And this side, then up and down, right, children? This is we call one joint is there in between our skull and vertebral column. Okay, these are the two bones, right? In between our skull and vertebral column, there is a one joint. That joint we call pivot joint. Okay, P-I-V-O-T, pivot joint. Clear all of you? So example we can say neck joint, neck joint. Understand? If you look closely, you can see my arm is moving, but from the elbow only, right? That is backward and forward. Backward and forward movement. Like a hinge, right? As you see in the case of a door, this is the point where it is hinged and it moves along that hinge joint. Similarly, this is a hinge and entire thing is moving. Hinge joint that allow movement in two directions, backward and forward. You can say the example, elbow, knee, and then fingers and toes, which can see in our hip and shoulder. That we call shoulder joint and hip joint. Shoulder joint means these ball-like bones fixed to the socket of this bone. Okay, so it is we call ball and socket bone also, because at the end of this ball like structure fixing to the socket of this bone to the socket, that we call ball and socket joint, and it is seen in shoulder joint. Okay, this is shoulder joint. That's why we can swing our arm easily. Okay, we can rotate our arms because of this ball and socket joint, as like leg and hip is connected with a joint. That's why we can turning and twisting of our hips easily. Joint we call ball and socket joint. Ball and socket joint. Ball like structure is fixed to the connected to the socket like structure, that we call ball and socket joint. Example, you can say shoulder joint and hip joint. Our last movable joint is gliding joint. Gliding joints we can see in our wrist and ankles. Okay, and they allow flat bones to slide over each other. This gliding joint. Okay, today's session we learned about the joints. Two bones are meeting together, a connection is there, that we called joints, right? And we have two types of joints. What are they? Movable and immovable joints. Immovable joints we can say the example skull, but movable joints which can easily flexible, which can movable, right? What all are they? What are the four types of movable joints, children? They are pivot joint, hinge joint, ball and socket joint, and last one is gliding joint. So all should have to read and study these differences. Okay, we can meet in our next class. Thank you.